Only she has remained. She doesn't give a fuck. In fact, she's more than happy that these unoriginal bangaletos, as she calls the summer guests, have finally pulled some strings. So there she sits on her chair, which she stole away in one of the chaotic, noisy nights at the soccer club. It's a simple white plastic chair, the ones you can stack, the ones you can find in any garden center that has been around for several seasons and whose legs have already been severely damaged by frequent usage. This chair will not last forever, maybe not even survive another winter. She is well aware of that. Doesn't matter to her. Lucia feels more connected to the chair than to the people in her village. She sees more similarities in her character and can understand only too well what it means not to know if the next spring will bring the hoped for salvation. So she sits rather with her chair, one could also say partner, at a small table and stares through the dirty windows into the forest in front of the house. Actually, she does not own the house, but she has literally obsessed it. Lucia is one of the few people who can claim that real Roman blood flows through her veins. She grew up in the city of cities. She, just like her mother, her grandmother, and countless generations of women in her family before her. A true Roman. Back then, 50 years or more ago, when you could still drive past the Trevi fountain by car, when the Roman Forum was wild and the center of power for Italian cats, when the typewriter opened its doors for the first time, she lived with her family in Prati. This is a district in the north of the city, nestling around the Vatican like a tightly woven scarf. There, beyond the sacred walls, hidden behind the Pope's radio tower, the houses have grown tall. Lined up side by side, leaning on each other, they overgrow the gentle hills of Rome. A multitude of bizarre, lushly planted terraces and balconies break out of the facades, so that one could almost get the impression that the skyscrapers themselves are living bean plants sprouting with light, and the daring projections are the leaves. Lucia grew up on Via Giovanni Rizzo 16, on the 8th floor right under the roof. She spent her free time with friends, in public places, mostly in the old part of the city. There you could watch the tourists stumbling around heedlessly on the old cobblestones in search of the next sight, the next ice cream, the real Italian way of life. The young girl didn't know what the real Italian attitude to life was supposed to be, and sometimes caught herself chasing the word itself. Was it the feeling of a full stomach after a late dinner? Was it the stone heated by the sun, which you could feel burning on your thighs on hot days? Was it the secretly smoked cigarette in front of the fabulous scenery of the Trajan markets? Was that all? A few old stones lying in a meadow, broken shabby houses, fucked up little churches? In her opinion, that was bullshit. But the new big cinema next to the Piazza dei Fiori was much more worth seeing. It had 4 movie theaters, an escalator leading up to 3 floors, a gigantic popcorn machine, and air conditioning in every room. Moreover, the screen was so big that one could never really see the whole picture without getting a stiff neck. Once even an American film star, Robert De Niro, came to the cinema for a movie premiere. That was worth seeing. The anticipation of the approaching summer retreat quickly disappeared, and the hours in a traffic jam ate at her family's nerves. It was hot, stuffy and loud, outside as well as in the car. but all the hassle disappeared as soon as they reached the motorway exit Ostia Antica. Ostia Antica, the port city of Rome. More rubble, more ruins. Lucia has visited this cemetery countless times, in primary school, in seminar weeks with the history teacher. Nevertheless, she was happy when they rushed past the ruins, because that meant that the sign of Fregene would show up after the next bend, or at least even the one after this one. She rolled down the window and waited until the smell climbed into her nose again. In this coastal village it always smelled like burned grass, dry pine trees, and the hot rubber of the air mattress, which offered small shops at the roadside in all the colors of the rainbow. This smell put her in a kind of meditative mood and made her forget the ballast she carefully carried with her. Her family's bungalow was not located directly on the waterfront, but was well hidden in an old-growth forest, at the edge of a park in a small side street. When she tried to describe it to her friends, she usually lost herself in strange excesses after a few sentences. There's a house, all concrete, and it floats. It stands on some kind of supports that carry red crosses that support the house, but it is also held from above by thick frames of concrete. Actually, it's wedged between the columns and the frames. The house is a sandwich, and below and above are the hands that hold it together. And you know what I mean? And everything that is concrete, is not concrete, like windows and doors and stairs and stuff, is red, and I think it is metal. And the windows are not windows, I mean panes of glass, but cubes that move out and into the house. Actually, it looks like a marble quarry, but on stilts. It is funny too, almost amusing actually. You know, you can only get into the house via a drawbridge. It's red too, and if Ray, that's the one who lives in there with his parents, doesn't feel like it, he just pulls up the bridge and nobody can get in and out. And there are no regular stairs, only spiral staircases leading to the roof. The bathroom, can you imagine? It hangs outside the house in a sphere. I still don't understand how it works, but it does, and you can close the globe with a round plate that spins. It looks like a coin spinning on its own axis. Huh? I haven't told the most extreme one yet. In the floor and on the wall and on the ceiling there are cracks. No cracks, but yes, they are filled with glass. Yeah. So you can look down into the pool, but also on the terrace, on the roof, and it seems like it's about to fall apart, but it holds together. All the rooms are on different levels, and there are no walls, although, yes, the outer walls. And then there are hieroglyphs all over the facade. The outer wall also moves inwards and outwards in a cube shape, and sometimes has little bullet holes filled with colored glass. You know what I mean. I'm telling you, you've never seen anything like it. All Rome has never seen anything like it. The stupid old broken columns and the rotten ruins in the city are a joke. Why would anyone live in an old hovel when you can have that? No, thanks. To hell with the Pantheon. It's not even waterproof. You know what I mean. The winter time she had to spend in the city became torture for her, and she felt trapped between the old churches and in the narrow streets of Rome. The beautiful view of the walls of the Vatican and the dome of St. Peter's had become a memorial for her. It stood for a city that had already experienced too much, still lived in the past and could not free itself from its parents. When the cinema in the Jewish quarter had to close its doors again, her heart broke. Rome was a stubborn, conservative, mean witch who refused to change, and so Lucia changed something. She left Rome. but didn't get far because she has been sitting on that wobbly chair in Fregene for almost 50 years now. After a short time, she found a job there as a boutiqueur in the sports club and vowed to herself that she would stay there only until she had enough money on the side to buy a ticket to America. Well, meanwhile, she's over 60 years old, and with the money she saved, she bought the kiosk at the football field. The house that started all this is still standing, but it hasn't been in use for a long time. In fact, since the architect died. The doors and stairs are rusty, the windows are smashed, and the whole house is covered with graffiti. The pool has become a biotope for toads, and much of the inventory has been stolen. Lucia, however, has dedicated herself to it and has declared herself as the guardian in the meantime. For too long she has only watched as intruders trample this masterpiece with their feet. Every day after work, even before work and on weekends anyway, the old woman looks after her treasure, sits in the stone tree house protecting the property, and ponders which overseas city she might look at first. Lucia and the ruin merge into each other, but while she can no longer live without the house, the debris dump lives on without her.